everyone. Good evening. So I'm Akhil, and I'm here as part of the Leader Story Lounge team. So let me just give you a quick background. Now, we all love listening to stories. Now, with this thing in mind, I met my colleague, also the co-founder of, let's say, Leader Story Lounge, Dr. Rupinder Kaur. Now, when we were sharing our stories, we realized that there is so much to learn from people around, especially people who are in the leadership roles. And that is when it struck to us that why don't we create a platform wherein we talk to leaders, interact with them, have conversations, and let people learn from their experiences. Right? So, with this thing in mind, we decided to form what is now called as the Leaders Story Lounge. Now, at this point in time, I'll welcome my colleague, Dr. Rupinder Kaur, and our guest for today, Mr. Rupesh Tripathi. Hello, guys.
Thank-
Hi, Rupesh. Hi, Rupinder.
Hi, Akhil. Hi, Rupinder.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Akhil, for this quick background and introduction. Good evening, everyone who's joining us today live, and a very warm welcome to our very special guest, Rupesh. Thank you so much, Rupesh, for sparing this time for us to be on Leader Story Lounge.
Thank you, Rupinder, and thanks, Akhil. That's a great background and great story to the story lounge. So thank you for doing this, and I completely agree. I think it's a great platform to learn, right? If we hear stories from each other. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
So we have this the whole thing crafted to be very short, very crisp, and very, very meaningful to whosoever is listening to us. Which is why, without wasting any further time, I'm going to give you all a sneak peek into the great leader whom we are interviewing today, who is none other than Rupesh. Rupesh is currently the talent lead for KPMG Global Services. He comes with the 20 years of experience across industries in a wide spectrum of HR verticals. Prior to this, he was the head of HR for IHS Market. He has a huge experience working across large and complex, environments, and what he brings to the table, interestingly, is not only expertise in talent mastery and HR expertise, but also you will be, intrigued to know that he's a marathoner, he's a blogger, and he's a very astute coach. So I think we are privileged to have Rupesh with us today. Thank you, Rupesh, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Rupinder. Thank you for those lovely words.
So with that, I'm not. I'm going to invite you to, tell us a little bit about yourself, your personal and professional journey. Take us through the highs and lows of what Rupesh is and how has your journey been.
Sure, Rupinder, and when I got to know that you're calling it a story lounge, and then you wanted me to just talk about how I got to where I've got to. I was just thinking back and what can I share with this audience? And I thought one question that I get asked often is how did I get into this whole career of HR, and which has an interesting backstory to it. So let me pick up that piece of my entire career journey. Uh, so when I was doing my graduation, I was actually I wanted to do finance. So I was planning to major in finance. I had enrolled myself into CFA. I was I cleared a couple of groups. So that is the journey that I wanted to pursue. But there were three events, or I must say inflection points, that happened sometime during my journey, which got me to where I am today. And let me talk about what those three events were, and then get into the details of how and when they happened. So one of them was an envelope landing at my doorstep with a newspaper ad in it. The second was a night that I was locked in an office, gherowed by a labor union. That was an interesting one. And third was this really chilly, cold winter morning when a friend of mine literally dragged me out of the bed to board a Bihar transport bus. Okay, so these are the three inflection points. Now coming back to what happened. So I was actually in Indore. I had enrolled into integrated Masters of Management Science course with Indore University. And by the time I reached my third year, there was this realization that one, I want to do my MBA from a better known school, and two, I wanted some experience before I go and do that MBA, because by that time I realized how much one can get out of a B school if they have some experience behind them. So I started to think of taking a break after my graduation and wanting to look for a job. And my dad, who was a career government servant, he was in forest department, he sends me this cutting of management trainee administration opening in Steel Authority of India Limited. So that was the first inflection point. I see that, like, okay, sounds interesting. Why don't I go and give it a shot? So applied, written exam, interviews, whatever, got selected, and hence my journey into employment happens. I was all of 21 years old, starry-eyed, went to become management trainee for that time, one of the Navaratnas of, even now in fact, of PSU sector, and I got placed in Bokaro steel plant in Bihar, right? So uh, there the management traineeship was of a year, and the way it was structured was based on your performance in that 1 year of management training. You would be, based on your rank, you would be called in and given an opportunity to choose what line that you want to go in, right? Whether it is HR or communication or town administration or vigilance, or whole set of roles. I happened to do well. I topped my management training batch, so I was the first one who was called in to say, what do you want to do? And the only reason I chose personnel management at that point of time was because in a factory, after the factory manager, the second most powerful person that was, that seemed to be most powerful was head of personnel. Like, that's a cool role. Maybe I can do that. So I said, okay, I want to do personnel. And then I got placed in the toughest shop of the steel plant, called coke ovens and byproduct plant, under a boss who are considered to be almost the ER guru of the plant and of sale. And I started working under him and got exposed to what employee relations is, what IR is, what union management is. And that's when the second thing happened, right? So one of the nights, we were locked in the office, and there was a gherao, and there were labor union outside, and we weren't allowed to leave the office. The whole night I spent listening to the adventures and the stories that my boss had gone through during his career. And that's where something clicked and said, yeah, this is a cool role, and maybe I can make a career in HR. And I decided that I'm going to now do my MBA in HR and then pursue a career in HR. So after a couple of years in sale, I decided to go for that. XLRI was the only institute that I applied for. Did not prepare. I thought, too much. I was enjoying myself. Like I said, 21. By that time, 23 years of age, nice earning. I was enjoying myself, and decided to not go for the test till this friend of mine came in, the third inflection point, literally dragged me out of the rooms of my bedroom, saying that if nothing else, you're going to go and see a new city. This test was in Jamshedpur. So we boarded this overloaded Bihar transport bus, reached Jamshedpur. I sat for the test, and I cleared that, and then my MBA happened. And since after that, of course, got into HR, and then have been there for forever. So to your question, what were highs and lows in the journey? I think number of highs, whether it was role changes or enhanced responsibilities or promotions or ratings and all of that, right? But the real high I still consider is being associated with this a very noble of a profession. I think we touch lives and help many realize their dreams and potential through whether supporting hiring or development or career or pay and so on and so forth. So I truly consider myself blessed to be in this profession. And if I were to talk about challenges, I would say every time I've raised hand for a larger role, or have decided to change industries, which I have done fair bit. I think just getting to experience different kind of people, the different kind of businesses, different kind of industries is something that I've thoroughly enjoyed. But every time I have done that, they have pushed me out of my comfort zone. But honestly, that's where I have continued to evolve. So those were the challenge points, is what I would say. So long answer to your question, but there you go.
No, but thank you so much. I think that's a very very elaborate and a very very useful answer. I got a couple of learnings even with that answer, and I got to know a lot more about you as a person. You know, somebody who's growth oriented, somebody who looks growth as stepping out of the comfort zone. And what a beautiful narration, Rupesh, when you told us about those three inflection points and the lovely pieces of the story. How did they actually fit sequentially to make those inflection points such significant contributors to your career? Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Rupesh. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. And I'm going to invite Akhil now to, ask you or the next question.
Absolutely wonderful, Rupesh. So while you were narrating the inflection points, I was able to actually visualize all of it that was coming through. And I think the best part of what you said was that even your career started with a story, right? Story from your boss sitting in that room the whole night, and that is how you kind of decided to get into the field of HR completely. Yeah. So my question here is, so with three girls at home, your wife and your two daughters, do you sometimes get bogged down with the women power at home?
Interesting question. I actually live with five women. Okay, so if I were to
Okay.
add my mom-in-law who stays with us, and we have a
Wow.
live-in hell, we actually have five. So guess what I did? I went and got ourselves a male puppy to give me a masculine company. We used to have a dog, and we lost him a couple of years back. So
That's cool.
right now we decided to get another one. So yes, I do have a male company. But on a serious note, I think this and the fact that I've grown up with the two elder sisters have been absolutely instrumental in shaping my thinking on the whole diversity agenda. I see how different can a woman's approach be, the way she thinks, feels. I think it has taught me immensely. And my wife is a greatest sounding board that I have, and I often call her my staunchest critic and my loudest cheerleader. But yeah, so that's where I am at home.
So Rupesh, interesting. So taking it a slightly deeper, so what are your views on women in the consulting world? So if you were to kind of tell us three elements that women should be doing to kind of advance through in the corporate journeys, what will those elements be?
Uh, No, interesting question. And if I were to wear the professional services hat, I think the opportunities are immense. In fact, we at KGS are actually close to complete gender parity. Right, so we are at a shade over 46% gender
Mhm.
diverse, really working towards getting to a 50%. And though I must confess and say that, like many organizations, I think the two areas where we still have some distance to go is the technology space. I think we still would like to do more there. And second, parity at the senior and leadership level, right? So we have some absolutely great ratios at the bottom of the pyramid, but as we start going up, I think it's not where we would ideally like it to be. I think the simplest formula, if you were to ask me, what are the three ways in which we can get more of that? Honestly, the simplest way is to hire more, promote more, and retain more, right? I mean, anybody will tell you that, but it, I think, is easier said than done. Uh, what is at the foundation of being successful as an organization to be able to do that is actually inclusion, right? And it is said a close, I heard it recently somewhere that one can mandate diversity, but one cannot mandate inclusion. And creating a culture that truly is of respect of diverse backgrounds and diverse ways of thinking, and diversity in region and language and gender and sexual preferences and identities, etc., is absolutely must for diversity to thrive. Though I must say that there has been a lot of improvement over last few years and decades, and I think what's helping the cause is a much greater appetite towards flexible and agile work practices. That obviously benefits colleagues in maneuvering the life stage demands. Leadership commitment, I think, has come up in a big way, and that is resulting cultural shifts, which is leading, to bringing any unconscious biases to the fore and addressing them. Metrics are being looked very, very closely, and what is measured gets done. But at the same time, I think there have been, at least for last in this last year of pandemic, there have been challenges that actually have also slowed down the progress. Right, one is uh, the this hyper connected world. Right, it doesn't help anyone in their work life integration uh, if you're not really focused on that, and may impact or does impact women colleagues far more in a lot of ways. And the reason for that also is that outside of corporates, the division of housework still is skewed against the women, leading to a far greater drop of women colleagues from the workforce in, let's say, what happened last year. There still are unconscious biases given how male dominated the corporate world has been. But I'm an eternal optimist. I'm hopeful. I think we have been on this incredible journey to get to where we are, and we will get to a complete parity sometime soon.
Wonderful thoughts. In fact, while you were sharing the example of inclusion cannot be mandated, but so I think I remember this image, which is a lot. There are a few people on the racetrack, and so when men are running, they don't have any obstacles in front of them. But when women are even about to start a race, they have tons of obstacles, right? So you're
That's
right
true.
that inclusion cannot be mandated. It has to be kind of practice, and it has to be lived through every single day and every single moment. Yeah. And I think that your second point in terms of hiring, retaining, and promoting, I think all of them are important because what I've experienced in my career, though I've not been an HR professional, I've been all and out finance professional, is hiring is always easy. I think the retention becomes more difficult, and obviously the promotion element becomes even more difficult as we talk about the pyramid, so to say. So thank you, Rupesh, for sharing that. I'll pass it back to Rupinder. Rupinder, you're on mute.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I said thank you so much. I think that was an interesting delving down and sharing examples from your own organization, Rupesh, really helps because what we need right now, as you rightly mentioned, we need people who are brand ambassadors, who are cheerleaders, and who also lead by example per se. When it comes to diversity and inclusion, it's not a problem which can be solved overnight. It has taken generations, to kind of come where we are, and I think it will take many more generations for us to be at absolute parity, if at all we are ever able to kind of reach that space. But I'm hopeful. I'm an eternal optimist, and so I'm hoping that we will reach it sooner than later, especially with leaders like you who are leading from the front. So now that we are discussing leadership, and we've kind of tumbled onto that, Rupesh, one of the fundamental questions in my journey of exploring leadership as a theoretical construct, leading leadership development for many organizations, and now as a researcher in the same domain. One of the fundamental questions has always been, why should anyone be led by me, right? That's something that I think personally and fundamentally every leader should give an answer to and keep giving that answer as he or she progresses. So, what are some of your thoughts on that question, and what are some of the other questions do you think leaders should ask themselves in their pursuit of, level 5 leadership, if I may call so?
Yeah, Rupinder, thank you for that. And that is an absolutely brilliant question for us to be asking ourselves. And I've heard the same question. In fact, my CEO does, is somebody from whom I heard this. The other way to ask the same question is that if your position was to be filled through a process of election by your own team members, will you get elected? It's just a great way to say that you're not sitting there just because you happen to be there. But even if your team members had an opportunity or option to choose, you would still get elected or not. And I think what is important is not just asking the question and satisfying oneself with a yes or a no answer, but to truly reflect on if yes, why, and if not, why not. Right. So that's on that question. I think the one other question that I often ask myself is that as a team member, how would have I liked my leader to react in this situation? And can I do the same, right? So the very simple way to say is treat others as you would want to be treated. So putting up myself in in the shoes and then projecting it back on myself. uh, and one of the, I would say, the last question could be, how are you as a leader contributing to the team? Is it your expertise? Is it your ability to inspire? Is it your ability to enable your team by clearing their path? Is it your ability to see a bigger picture? Whatever that is, are you aware? How are you adding to the equation? So it's not that you are just an aggregator. It's not that you are there just because of the label or the seat, but you are adding something to that equation, which is making a difference. So I would say those are a few questions which we should continue to ask ourselves and delve in those answers, and then work towards, if the answers are yes, how do I keep doing that? If the answer is no, then what can I change in the situation or myself to for that answer to become a yes?
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Rupesh. I think the power of questioning, anyways, is huge, right? And
Yep.
if we keep asking those very relevant and useful questions, um, it's definitely opening up many doors to your inner self and focusing on continuous improvement in that sense. So, um, lovely question, lovely answer. The way you answered that question was brilliant. So, Akhil, would you have any other questions for Rupesh going forward?
Yes, absolutely. Getting an opportunity to ask HR professional questions, I think it's like turning the table around. So I will definitely not want to miss my chance.
Now
So
you're
Rupesh,
scaring me.
not at all, not at all. So, Rupesh, what I have realized, especially when it comes to leadership, so there are three things that leadership also always needs to look at, right? So they need to be able to sense changes, they need to communicate changes, and obviously also plan in terms of implementing changes, right? And sometimes it's like leadership is like the organization is like a car running at a high speed, and you're suddenly asked to change the tires, right? So, what, according to you, are some of the skills and abilities that HR professionals actually should focus on, or maybe in developing in themselves?
Great question, and list is honestly long because I've this. Um, I really and fundamentally believe in. In fact, the first one that I think is required. So that my top three would be, first of all, developing a growth mindset. Ability to say I do not know, I need to learn, is paramount, right? And we see it every day. So even 60, 70, 80-year old labor laws, which it seemed will never change, are being completely revamped, right? We've recently had 4 labor codes that came in, and kind of aggregated 29 laws which were ages old. So there is no way any of us can survive by just resting on our fixed knowledge. So that is tough for me, and this is not just for HR leaders. I would say it's for every single human being. The day we stop growing, I think the way is we really stop living. Second is ability to understand business. And while this has been always an ask from an HR leader, nothing new there, but just understanding the business, understanding the drivers of the business, getting comfortable with data, in drawing insights from data, connecting the dots, moving from so I like to say this, moving from I think to I know. So every time we as HR professional recommend a people solution, rather than saying that we should do this because I think, to say we should do this because I know, due to these due to these data, due to this data and insights. In fact, my CEO has told me multiple times that the quality that he values the most in me is my analytical ability, right? So he says, yes, you are good with people, but I like that you're good with numbers. So like, yeah. So that's interesting. And the third one is ability to manage ambiguity, uncertainty, resilience. I think the world is getting more and more and more volatile by the day. So while we all know of the pandemic, there is this technological advancements like never before. There are disruptions coming in from quarters which were never thought of. So and as an HR leader, more often than not, is it's expected out of them to be voice of calm and composure in the boardroom, right? So we cannot get the chaos get to us. So those would be my top three: growth mindset, analytical ability or understanding the business, and resilience, ability to manage ambiguity and uncertainty.
So I think you've weaved it all very well in terms of the technical skills as well as the softer aspects. And I think what I kind of take back from your answer is that a leader doesn't have to have answers to everything around. Maybe they need
Absolutely.
to create an ecosystem wherein people can go and find answers. And as you rightly said, the devil lies in the detail of the data. So thank you for sharing that, Rupesh. Rupinder, over to you. Yeah, Rupinder, you're on mute.
As we navigate through these uncertain times, I think what you mentioned, Rupesh, resonates a lot with me from a resilience perspective. I think, and especially in the last 1 year, the
Yeah.
kind of turbulence that each one of us has gone through personally, professionally, and at an organizational enterprise level. What has stood out for me definitely is personal and organizational resilience, and for sure, I think talent partners can be the torchbearers in this one through leading by example, and also setting up policies, processes, and procedures which enable the organization to become even more resilient. So I think wonderful answers out there and a lot for people to take from your experience and expertise. But what we thought, Rupesh, was that while the session has to be very, very, enriching for people who are listening from their professional, domains, it also has to have some element of fun, and it also has to have an element of knowing you on a little personal level. So we crafted a quick rapid fire round for you, and this is going to be a little unexpected. Are you game for this one?
I'm going to pull my leg now. Yes, absolutely. Let's go for it.
so, I'll just, it's just a quick 10 question round, and you don't have to think a lot to answer that. It's just whatever top of the mind thought comes to you, and which is the real you. So just let the world know that. Great. So here goes the first one. How would you describe Rupesh in one word?
That's the easy one. So people always call me calm, composed, stoic. So yeah, calm.
Wow, that's a great quality to have. Super. Okay. What is your biggest put off? What irritates you? I know this is a contradictory one because you just said calm, but then I'm going to still go ahead and ask you that one.
News. So negativity, fake news, cynicism. I hardly watch news nowadays just because, and yeah, that helps me stay calm. But it's just the cynicism and the negativity all around is a real doubter for me.
Sure. I think that kind of resonates a lot. Okay, so getting a little bit more into your, reading interests, which book are you reading currently?
So, so interestingly, I always have three or four going at a time. So I would be
Oh, wow.
listening to something, on my audiobook during my runs. I would be reading something on my Kindle. I would have a physical book around. So um, I in fact picked up Humankind by Rutger Bergman, which I started to enjoy a lot, and because of that, I started rereading Homo Deus again by Harari. I enjoyed when I read it last time. And the third one is actually a slightly offbeat. I'm reading a book called Reality is Broken by there's this game designer called Jane McGonigal. So she has written from a gamer's perspective, while we always criticize if somebody is gaming a lot, saying they're wasting time. Why
Right.
are they doing it, and how can actually games make life better? So that's an interesting one that I picked up. I'm enjoying it. I'm just halfway into it. So these are three that I'm reading. I have Obama's Promised Land sitting on my reading book. It's like 1,000 pages tome. So I'm going to get to it someday.
Wow, that gives me a very interesting perspective. I have a 14-year-old at home who's the you just said, people who are gamers, and he prides himself in calling himself a gamer. So I'm going to pick this one up and really try and see if it changes my perspective a little bit. Good, great. Thank you so much. Okay, I know that you have passions outside work. I know you are a marathoner, you are a blogger, and of course, coach becomes a part of your professional expertise. But tell us one more passion, which is apart from the ones that I've listed.
Art. So I do oil painting. I like cartooning. I like digital art. So yeah, art is something that I again enjoy a lot.
Wow. Wow. Aren't you like multi-talented? Like almost like a bundle of so many talents together? That's amazing. Great. Okay. Here goes the next one. If you could go back in time, what would you change about your life?
Hmm, that's a tough one. I would want to say nothing because there's honestly no regrets. Like I said, being an eternal optimist that I am, firmly believe in what happens for the best. But there actually is one thing, right? And if I could, I would want to study engineering, not to choose any other career. I think I would have landed where I have landed, but I think I really value the training that one gets as a part of STEM education, the way somebody thinks. So yeah, maybe I'll go back and put some more effort into my IIT prep, which I gave up once I got my admission into management studies.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. Here is the next one because I promise you'll not take too much of time. Who is that one leader whom you take inspiration from?
Hmm. I've thought of this, long and hard earlier as well, because this is a question that keeps coming up. But honestly, I don't think anybody, any of the typical names, right? So uh, I get inspired by my dad. I think he's one person that inspires me, and then from a leadership perspective, I think all the great bosses that I've worked with. I mean, incredibly blessed to work with some absolutely fantastic leaders and bosses. So that entire group as one is what I would say.
Wow, that's a lovely thought. I personally am also, I think a lot of what I do and what I am is inspired from the role model of my father. He's been,
Lovely.
always will be my role model. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now it's going to be a tricky one. I know everybody sings in the bathroom, even if you say that I'm not a singer. So, which is your favorite song? What do you sing in? Which song do you sing in the bathroom?
Oh, actually, I don't. I'm a complete tone deaf. Both
No,
my
no, you.
daughters are learning piano, and you're like, wow, you guys are amazing. I can't. I don't know a do from a re. So honestly, no. I don't sing inside or outside of
Come
shower. I think
on, you can't skip
on-
that one. You must be singing some
only
tune, some
only.
English song,
I think the
some Hindi song.
only time I sing is if I've had a few drinks and there's a karaoke going on. But no.
Yeah, which is that song which comes to your lips when you have had three drinks?
uh, no, I can't think of any.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, so here's another tricky one. If your life was a movie, what would it be called?
uh, I think I would like it to be called as Mission Possible rather Mission Impossible, because, like I
Ah.
said, I think we can achieve anything that we put our mind at. Firm believer of that. So I would like it to be called Mission Possible.
Thank you. That's an interesting one and a very apt one for all those people who are looking to make a career and the way Rupesh has made his career and rose into such great heights. Here's a big one for you. Mission Possible. Okay. Uh, what would your best friends say they like the least about you? That's a little
This one
secret
I know.
sharing.
No. This one is another easy one. So they would hate that I refuse Saturday nights because of my Sunday morning long runs. Like,
Oh, okay.
nights,
Yeah.
there's no drinking happening because Sunday morning is my 10, 15, 20, whatever K that I'm doing that.
I'm sure your daughters and your wife would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying it from the perspective that I'm coming in, but yeah, great. Okay, so here's the last question for the day, Rupesh. What legacy would you want to leave? And in just one word.
Um, I'd love to be known as greatest dad in the whole wide world. I think that's what I would like to leave behind. I think I ended up quoting Peppa Pig there. But with two daughters, one 6 year old and one 10 years old. But absolutely, I think beyond work, beyond anything else, everything that I'm doing is to make sure that they get everything that they deserve and a great life and a great world. So yeah, that's my legacy.
Wow, such a profound thing to say, Rupesh. I mean, you have time and again, testified the fact what a great empathic leader you are, who not only is invested in caring and giving back to, people that you lead, but your family, of course, which comes paramount. And what a wholesome leadership when you say you combine empathy with numbers and data to kind of prove your point and say, this is doable, this is possible with a growth mindset to lead. This has been a lovely conversation, Rupesh. It's so enriching for us personally. I'm sure Akhil will kind of scribe to the thought that I'm sharing with you. But this has been absolutely wonderful. Would you want to say anything, Akhil, before we actually officially thank Rupesh for his time and his very wise inputs today?
I think I would say a big thumbs up, Rupesh, for all the candid answers. While we will still come back to you on the song that you sing in the bathroom, I'm sure there has to be a song. But yeah, I had a lot of takeaways myself. I learned a lot, got a lot of perspectives as well. So thank you so much for kind of spending time with us. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you both of you for having me. I enjoyed the conversation thoroughly. Thank you. Those were very thought through questions, and yeah, thanks and thank you for doing what you're doing and keep doing it. All the very best.
Thank you so
Thank you so much.
much once again, Akhil, Rupesh, and thank you everyone who joined us now or would be seeing us live later. We will definitely put this up on YouTube for you guys to have a look at and learn from it. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend ahead
Yeah.
and take good care of yourself. Bye bye.
Thanks.